The great hall of Harmony's Edge Station stretched before them like a metal cathedral. Tae-ho walked slowly across the polished floor, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. Around him, beings from 12 different worlds sat in their designated areas. Some had scales that shimmered under the artificial lights. Others had multiple arms or eyes that glowed in the dim corners. A few looked almost human, except for their skin that changed colors with their moods. Tae-ho was the last human, ambassador. In a few hours, there might never be another one. He took his place at the small table marked with Earth's symbol. The table felt too big for just one person. 6 months ago, 5 humans had sat here. Now the others had already gone home. Only Tae-ho remained to hear the final decision. Ki-won watched from the observation deck above. He pressed his hand against the cool glass and tried not to think about how many years he had spent in rooms like this. 30 years of meetings, 30 years of trying to make aliens understand that humans were not the monsters they believed them to be. The council speaker, a tall being with silver skin and no visible mouth, raised one of its 4 arms. The room fell silent. When it spoke, the words came from a device on its chest, translating thoughts into sounds that all species could understand. "We gather today to make a final decision about the human question," the speaker said. "For 100 years, humans have been part of our galactic community. In that time, we have seen great achievements. We have also seen great concerns." Tae-ho kept his face blank. He had heard this speech before. They all had. The Villani delegate stood next. Her people looked like humans, except their skin was pale blue and their eyes were completely black. She spoke in a voice that sounded like wind through trees. "Humans expand too fast," she said. "In 100 years, they have built colonies on 47 worlds. The Villani took 300 years to settle 12 worlds. This rapid growth disturbs the natural balance of space." The Korthan representative floated up from his chair. His people lived in the gas clouds around giant planets, so his body was translucent and filled with swirling colors. When he spoke, his voice bubbled like water. "Human military responses are unpredictable," he said. "When the Keth pirates attacked the Meridian shipping lanes, we planned a careful diplomatic solution. The humans sent warships and destroyed the pirate base in 3 days. This violence solved the problem, yes, but it broke 17 galactic peace treaties." More delegates spoke. Each one had a story about humans doing something that worked but felt wrong to them. Humans who saved lives by breaking rules. Humans who ended conflicts by fighting instead of talking. Humans who built things fast instead of building them the right way. In the observation deck, Ki-won closed his eyes. Every example they gave was something humans had done to help other species. But the aliens only saw the rules that got broken, not the lives that got saved. The Ashek counselor was the last to speak. Her people were tall and thin, with large heads and eyes that seemed to see too much. They were telepaths who could read emotions from across a room. "The humans feel too much," she said softly. "Their emotions are loud and chaotic. When we try to sense their thoughts, we find anger and sadness and joy all mixed together. It is overwhelming. How can we trust beings who cannot control their own feelings?" Tae-ho finally stood up. The room turned to look at him. He was shorter than most of the aliens, with brown skin and black hair that was starting to turn gray. He looked ordinary compared to the exotic beings around him. But when he spoke, his voice carried across the entire hall. "Honored counselors," he said, "humanity has heard your concerns. We understand that our ways are different from yours. We understand that our presence in the galaxy has caused worry and uncertainty." He paused and looked around the room. Some aliens would not meet his eyes. Others stared at him with expressions he could not read. "We do not wish to be a source of fear," Tae-ho continued. If the Council believes the galaxy would be more peaceful without human participation, then humanity will respect that decision. We have always respected the wisdom of this Council. The Vellani delegate looked surprised. You will not argue? You will not present evidence of human achievements? Tae-ho shook his head. What would be the point? You have made your decision based on who you believe we are. We cannot change your minds by talking. We can only show you who we are through our actions. The Council speaker called for the vote. One by one, each delegate pressed a button on their desk. Red lights appeared across the great board at the front of the room. Red meant humans should leave galactic space. Only 3 lights stayed dark. 3 species chose not to vote at all. They were young civilizations that had barely met humans before this day. The decision is made, the Council speaker announced. Humanity has 180 standard cycles to withdraw from all contested systems and return to their designated home sector. The transition will be monitored to ensure compliance with galactic law. Tae-ho bowed slightly. We understand. Thank you for the years we were allowed to participate. He turned and walked out of the great hall. His footsteps echoed again, but this time they sounded final. On the Vellani homeworld, Ji-hai received the news while working in her laboratory. She was studying a rare flower that only bloomed during the planet's double sunset. The flower was beautiful, with petals that changed from blue to gold as the light faded. Her Vellani colleague, Namtek, found her packing her equipment into small boxes. You do not have to leave immediately, Namtek said. His voice sounded sad. The transition period allows for completion of ongoing research. Ji-hee smiled, but her eyes were wet with tears. The research will be better in Vellani hands. My presence would only make the other scientists uncomfortable now. She sealed the last box and looked around the laboratory that had been her home for 8 years. Take care of the sunset flowers, Namtek. They are special. Across the galaxy, similar scenes. Played out on dozens of worlds. Human researchers packed their life's work. Human traders closed businesses they had built from nothing. Human families said goodbye to alien friends who seemed relieved to see them go. There were no protests, no angry speeches, no threats or demands for justice. Humans simply left. Dongmin commanded the last human diplomatic vessel to leave Council space. His ship, the Harmony Bridge, had carried ambassadors and delegates for 50 years. Now it carried empty chairs and sealed archives. Before jumping to hyperspace, Dongmin recorded a final message for the Council records. To the species of the Galactic Council, he said, humanity thanks you for the opportunity to participate in galactic civilization. We learned much from you about peace, cooperation, and the value of different perspectives. We hope that our departure brings you the stability and harmony you seek. If you ever need our help in the future, you know where to find us. He ended the recording and gave the order to jump. The stars outside the viewports stretched into lines of light, and then the ship disappeared into the darkness between worlds. Behind them, the galaxy continued its ancient dance around distant suns. But something had changed. For the first time, in 100 years, no human voices spoke in the council chambers. No human ships patrolled the trade routes. No human scientists worked in alien laboratories. The silence was complete and final. 50 years passed like a gentle breath across the galaxy. The great trade ships moved between worlds in perfect patterns. Diplomatic messages flowed through communication networks without anger or confusion. Wars became rare memories that only the oldest beings could recall. The galaxy had found its peace. Bo-Ram sat in the ancient library of Vel-Nash, the Vellani capital city. Around her, towers of crystalline data storage reached toward the vaulted ceiling. Each crystal contained thousands of years of galactic history. She was writing about a small chapter in that history, the time when humans lived among the stars with everyone else. Her research advisor, Elder Sai Ven, floated nearby, in his meditation chair. His blue skin had grown pale with age, and his black eyes moved slowly as he read her work. "You call it the human anomaly," he said. An interesting choice of words. Bahram looked up from her writing tablet. They were different from every other species we had encountered. Their behavior patterns did not match any known models of civilized development. And yet, Saiven said, they left peacefully when asked. No violence, no threats. They simply packed their belongings and went home. Bahram had interviewed dozens of beings who remembered the human years. Their stories were always the same. Humans worked too hard and moved too fast. They asked uncomfortable questions and gave unexpected answers. They solved problems in ways that made other species nervous, but they also built things that lasted. The asteroid mining station in the Kepler system still used human engineering designs. The medical techniques humans developed had saved millions of lives across 12 worlds. The agricultural methods they shared had ended hunger on 3 planets. Old. Counselor Yethka was the oldest being Bahram had ever met. The Korthan's translucent body moved like slow water as he spoke about the humans he had known. They could have fought, he told her during their interview. Their military technology was quite advanced. Some said it was 50 years ahead of anything we had developed, but they chose not to fight. Why do you think they made that choice? Bahram asked. Yethka's colors shifted to deep purple, the Korthan expression for deep thought. Pride, perhaps. Or wisdom. It is difficult to tell the difference sometimes. They said they respected our decision. I believe they meant it. Bahram recorded everything carefully. Her professor wanted her to focus on the political aspects of human removal, but she found herself more interested in the small details. The way human children had cried when leaving their alien friends. The way human scientists had left detailed notes so their research could continue without them. The way human merchants had honored all their contracts before closing their businesses. In human space, life had become quieter too. Hyunwoo worked in the maintenance tunnels beneath Luna City. The great dome overhead showed Earth hanging in, the black sky like a blue marble. He had been born on Luna 55 years ago, just 5 years before the humans left galactic space. His daughter Miran was 23 now. She had never seen a living alien. To her, the stories of other species were like fairy tales from her father's youth. "Tell me about the Ashek again," she said during their weekly dinner together. They sat in the small apartment Hyunwoo shared, with his wife eating synthesized vegetables that tasted almost like the real thing. They were tall and thin, Hyunwoo said, with big eyes that seemed to see everything. They could read emotions from across a room. I worked with one named Kelthara on the Europa mining project. She always knew when I was tired or worried before I said anything. Miran tried to imagine it. Were they scary? No, Hyunwoo said. Just different. Very calm and careful about everything they did. They thought for a long time before making any decision. Why did they want us to leave? Hyunwoo had answered this question many times over the years. They thought we were too dangerous, too unpredictable. They were afraid we might start a war or break something important. But we would not do that, Miran said. We know that, Hyunwoo replied. But they did not know that. On Mars, in a small greenhouse near the polar city of New Olympia, Seok-jin tended his garden. The old ambassador was 78 now, with white hair and hands that shook slightly when he worked with the delicate plants. He grew earth vegetables in Martian soil, tomatoes and peppers and small flowers that reminded him of his childhood in Korea. The work was peaceful and satisfying in a way that diplomacy had never been. Sometimes he received messages from his old alien colleagues. Not often, but sometimes. They were always polite and distant, formal greetings on holidays, updates about scientific discoveries or cultural events. Last month, he had gotten a message from Namtek, the Villani scientist who had worked with Jihai. The message was short and careful. Honored Seok-jin, it read. I hope you are well. The sunset flowers continue to bloom beautifully. Ji-Hai's research notes have helped us understand their life cycle much better. I sometimes wonder what new discoveries she might have made if she had stayed longer. Perhaps it is better not to think of such things. Peace be with you. Seok-jin had read the message 3 times before deleting it. He could sense the sadness behind the formal words. Namtek missed working with humans. But he would never say so directly. The galaxy had gotten what it wanted, peace and stability. No more human ships appearing in unexpected places. No more human voices asking difficult questions in council meetings. No more human solutions that worked but felt wrong. Trade moved smoothly between established routes. Conflicts were resolved through proper diplomatic channels that took years but satisfied everyone involved. The Ashek expanded their meditation. Worlds without interference. The Vellani perfected their biotechnology without human suggestions. The Korthan built their floating cities exactly the way their ancestors had taught them. Everything was orderly and predictable and safe. But sometimes, in the quiet moments between official business, some aliens found themselves thinking about the humans who used to live among them. The humans who fixed broken things quickly instead of studying them for months first. The humans who asked, why not, when everyone else asked, why? The humans who looked at impossible problems and found ways to solve them anyway. On the edge of human space, long-range sensors detected the occasional alien signal, messages between worlds, scientific broadcasts, cultural transmissions. The humans listened but did not respond. They had been asked to leave, and they stayed gone. Bo-Ram finished her research project on a quiet afternoon when Vel Nash's twin sons cast long shadows across the library. She had written 40,000 words about the 100 years humans spent in galactic civilization. Her conclusion was simple. Humans had been removed because they were different, not because they were wrong. But she did not write that in her official report. Instead, she wrote what her professors wanted to hear. That the council had made a wise decision, that the galaxy was more stable without human unpredictability, that peace was more valuable than progress. She submitted her project and received high marks for her scholarship. Then she filed it away and tried not to think about what the galaxy might have been like if humans had been allowed to stay. In her private journal, she wrote one final note. Sometimes I wonder if we chose safety over growth, but it is too late to change our minds now. The humans are gone, and they will not come back unless we ask them to, and we will never ask. The years continued to pass, quietly, peacefully, without surprises or disruptions or uncomfortable questions, exactly as the galaxy had wanted. The first sign of trouble came from the edge of the galaxy where no one was supposed to live. Long-range sensors detected something moving in the empty space between star systems. The signals were strange, not biological, not like any known technology. Then the Moran homeworld went silent. 4 billion beings died in 17 minutes. The planet's communication networks stopped broadcasting mid-sentence. Emergency beacons cut off without warning. When scout ships finally reached the system 3 days later, they found only empty space where a living world had been. The planet was still there. The cities were still standing. But every living thing on the surface had been turned to gray dust that blew in the wind. Council emergency sessions convened immediately. Representatives from 11 species gathered in the Great Hall of Harmonies. Edge Station. The 12th chair, the Moran seat, sat empty and draped in mourning cloth. In the back corner, almost forgotten, Chan-Ho sat at the human observer desk. He was not allowed to vote or speak during official sessions. 50 years ago, the Council had permitted Earth to maintain one representative who could watch but not participate. Most of the time, the other delegates forgot he was there. Today, everyone remembered. The Vellani delegate, Sai Miren, stood to address the assembly. Her blue skin had gone pale with fear, and her voice shook as she spoke. "The enemy calls itself the Jektar Collective," she said. "They sent one message before, destroying Miran. They demand the surrender of all biological life in the galaxy. They say organic beings are inefficient and must be corrected." The Corthan representative, Flux Andra, floated higher in his chair. His translucent body swirled with angry red colors. "Corrected?" he bubbled. "What does that mean?" "It means they want to kill us all," said Yel Karen, the Ashek counselor. Her large telepathic eyes were wide with terror. "I tried to read their thoughts when they sent the message. There was nothing there, no emotions, no consciousness as we understand it. Just cold calculation." Insu commanded the largest Volani defense fleet in the galaxy. He had fought pirates and raiders for 30 years. But this was different. His ships could barely track the enemy vessels, and their weapons seemed to pass through the Jektar ships like light through water. He sent desperate messages to the allied fleets. "We need new tactics," he broadcasted. "Everything we know about warfare is useless against them." The responses were the same from every species. Their technologies were designed for fighting biological enemies. The Corthan energy shields could not stop weapons that existed in multiple dimensions. The Ashek mind control techniques found no organic brains to influence. The Volani bioweapons had no effect on mechanical targets. For the first time in galactic history, the Council faced an enemy they could not negotiate with, could not understand, and could not defeat. Emergency session followed emergency session. Military advisors presented battle plans that failed before they could be implemented. Scientists offered theories about Jektar technology that proved completely wrong. Diplomats suggested peace negotiations with beings who did not recognize the concept of peace. During a brief recess, Yejin approached Chan Ho near the refreshment area. The aging Ashek counselor looked exhausted, her telepathic abilities made, her feel everyone's fear and panic as if it were her own. "Your people," she said quietly. "They always spoke of thinking outside the box. We never understood what that meant." Chan Ho poured himself a cup of synthetic coffee, one of the few human customs the station still maintained. "It means looking for solutions that no one else would consider. Finding answers in places where others would not think to look." "Show us," Yejin said. "Please." Chan Ho shook his head gently. "I am only an observer. I cannot participate in council." "Decisions? But surely you could offer suggestions? Informal advice?" "The council made its wishes clear 50 years ago," Chan Ho replied. "Humanity was asked to leave because our methods were too dangerous and unpredictable. If we intervene, now we prove that the council was right to fear us." Yejin's emotional emanations grew stronger. Chan Ho could feel her desperation even without telepathic abilities. "We were wrong," she whispered. "We were so very wrong." But Chan Ho had already turned away. He returned to his observer seat and sent a coded message to Earth. "Galactic crisis, developing, requesting guidance on appropriate response." The reply came 12 hours later. "Maintain observer status. Do not interfere unless formally requested by council majority vote." More worlds fell to the Jektar advance, the insectoid Krell homeworld, the aquatic Mertai colony systems, the crystalline shard collective stations. Each attack was swift and thorough. No survivors, no negotiations, just efficient conversion of biological matter into gray dust. Wu Jin monitored the communications from Earth's deep space listening post. He had volunteered for the isolated assignment because he wanted to understand what was happening to their former neighbors. Now he wished he had stayed home. The alien transmissions were full of panic and confusion. Military commanders who had never faced a truly superior enemy. Scientists who could not explain technology they had never imagined. Politicians who tried to negotiate with beings who saw negotiation as a waste of time. But the most painful messages were the personal ones. Alien families saying goodbye to each other as evacuation fleets prepared to flee their homeworlds. Children asking their parents why the scary machines wanted to hurt them. Elderly beings who remembered the human years wondering aloud if things might have been different. On Earth, the Defense Council met in continuous session. Hay-One chaired the meetings in a conference room deep beneath the Swiss mountains. Around the table sat the finest military minds humanity had produced in 2 generations. Jiangsu spread holographic battle maps across the table's surface. Red dots showed Jektar positions. Blue dots showed surviving alien fleets. The red was advancing quickly toward the galactic core. "We have 17 different tactical approaches," he said. "Some involve weapons that violate the Galactic Warfare Convention. Others require fleet movements that would break the Treaty of Stellar Boundaries. All of them would confirm every fear the Council expressed about human military doctrine." Su Jin represented the outer colonies. She had been born on Kepler Station during the evacuation 50 years ago. "Do we act without being asked?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Everyone in the room knew the answer, but no one wanted to say it. Yunji was a former ambassador who now served as civilian advisor. She understood alien psychology better than anyone else in the room. "They asked us to leave because we were too dangerous," she said. "If we intervene now, we become the invaders they always feared we would become. Even if we save them, we prove we were always the threat they believed us to be." Qiangho commanded the Colonial Defense Force. He was a soldier, not a diplomat. "Every day we wait, millions die. Is preserving their opinion of us worth those lives?" The debate continued for hours. Outside the conference room, Earth's population waited for news. They watched the alien broadcasts on public screens. They saw the fear in alien eyes. They remembered neighbors and colleagues and friends from before the exile. But they also remembered the choice the galaxy had made: peace over chaos, stability over growth, safety over the dangerous unpredictability of human solutions. Jae-hyun commanded the last active human deep space vessel, a long-range scout ship called the Quiet Observer. He was not supposed to be in galactic space, but he had bent his orders slightly to monitor the crisis. His crew watched refugee fleets fleeing the advancing Jektar forces, alien families packed into cargo ships. Children and elderly beings evacuated from worlds their species had inhabited for thousands of years. Young Min, his communications officer, broke the silence on the bridge. "Sir, we could escort those refugee ships. Our weapons systems could punch through Jektar patrol screens easily." Jae-hyun stared at the tactical display. One human ship could probably save thousands of alien lives, but doing so would violate 50 years of exile. It would prove that humans had never really respected the Council's decision. "We are not supposed to be here, young men," he said finally. "We are supposed to be the problem they solved." The refugee ships continued past them, fleeing toward the questionable safety of the galactic rim. Behind them, the Jektar advance continued its methodical destruction of everything the galaxy had built over millions of years. And humanity watched in silence, respecting the wishes of beings who had asked them to leave and were now dying because of that choice. The Villani homeworld was burning, not with fire, but with something worse, a gray corruption that spread across the planet's surface like poison. Ancient cities that had stood for 10,000 years crumbled into dust in minutes. Gardens that had bloomed since before humans discovered space travel withered and died. Wu Jin watched the final transmissions from his monitoring station on the edge of human space. The signals came in broken pieces as communication satellites failed one by one. He recorded everything, even though each message felt like watching friends die. "This is Science Station Vel Nash," came a weak voice through the static. "The gray wave has reached the capital. We estimate 12 minutes before total planetary conversion. Tell the galaxy we tried to understand them. Tell them we failed." The transmission ended. Another blue dot disappeared from the tactical displays. On Earth, the emergency session had been running for 6 days straight. Representatives took turns sleeping on couches in side rooms while others continued the debate. Coffee machines worked overtime. Stress levels had pushed several council members to their breaking points. Haywan looked around the table at exhausted faces. These were the people Earth trusted to make the hardest decisions. Military commanders who had never fought a real war. Scientists who had spent 50 years studying human space instead of alien threats. Politicians who had learned diplomacy in a galaxy that no longer existed. Jong-Soo updated the tactical display again. More red dots. Fewer blue ones. The Jektar advance had accelerated. They were no longer just destroying worlds. They were converting the matter into something else. Building something. The pattern is becoming clear, Jong-Soo said. They are not just eliminating biological life. They are harvesting raw materials. Every planet they convert adds to their construction. Capacity, Soo-Jin leaned forward. Construction of what? Unknown. But based on resource extraction rates, they are building something massive. Something that requires the matter from entire solar systems. Kyung-ho slammed his hand on the table. While we sit here talking, they are turning a million-year-old civilization into building materials for some machine we cannot even imagine. How is this different from any other genocide in history? Because we were not invited to help, Yoonji replied quietly. Because the last official communication from the Galactic Council specifically forbade human intervention in their affairs. That was 50 years ago. And nothing has changed that decision. The argument continued in circles, the same positions, the same moral conflicts, the same impossible choice between respecting alien wishes and saving alien lives. Meanwhile, on the observation deck above the council chambers, Min-ho worked alone at his communication station. He was not supposed to be listening to alien private channels, but the official networks had mostly failed. Only personal transmissions remained. He heard alien parents telling their children bedtime stories about the strange humans who used to live among the stars. Parents who remembered working with humans. Children who had never seen one but knew the stories by heart. "Tell me about the humans again, Mama," said a young Ashek voice on one transmission. "They were loud and messy," the mother replied. "But they fixed things that were broken. They solved problems no one else could solve. They made impossible things possible." "Where did they go?" "We asked them to leave. We thought they were too dangerous. Are they still dangerous?" A long pause. "I hope so, little one. I hope so." Min-ho saved the recording with shaking hands. Below him, Earth's leaders continued to debate while alien civilizations died one by one. The Korthan core systems fell on the 7th day of the council session. Flux Andra, the last surviving Korthan delegate, sent a final message to the galaxy. Council before his people's floating cities were consumed by gray machines. "We choose to dissolve into the cosmic currents with dignity," he said. "But we confess our greatest regret. We feared chaos more than death. We chose order over survival. We were wrong about what true danger means." Chan-ho received the transmission at his observation post. He had not left the station in 2 weeks. His human metabolism required more rest than most aliens, but he stayed awake through sheer determination. Someone needed to witness the end of galactic civilization. Someone needed to remember. He composed careful reports and sent them back to Earth every day. Factual summaries of council debates. Casualty reports from destroyed worlds. Technical analysis of Jektar technology based on scattered alien observations. But his personal log contained different thoughts. "Day 14, he recorded. "The Ashek meditation worlds have gone silent. 3 billion telepaths. Gone in an instant. The galaxy's greatest philosophers and peacemakers reduced to gray dust because they could not comprehend an enemy that thinks like a machine. The irony is becoming unbearable. For 50 years they feared human unpredictability. They wanted peace and order and careful consideration of all actions. Now, they face an enemy that is perfectly predictable, perfectly ordered, and has carefully considered that all biological life must die. They got exactly what they asked for, and it is killing them. Nari worked frantically in the archives of the last free Villani colony. She was trying to preserve the cultural history of her people before the Jektar arrived. Digital records of art and music and literature, scientific discoveries, philosophical writings, the accumulated wisdom of 40,000 years of civilization, but she also found older records, files from the human years that had been sealed away after the Exodus. She read reports of human problem-solving methods, tactical approaches that broke conventional rules, scientific theories that challenged established knowledge. In one file, she found a human military analysis of theoretical synthetic enemies. The report was 60 years old, written by a human strategist named David Kim. It described exactly the kind of adaptive, multi-dimensional warfare the Jektar were using. The human had also proposed 17 different countermeasures. All of them violated galactic military conventions. All of them required rapid deployment of untested technologies. All of them assumed that conventional warfare would fail completely. Nari transmitted the file to the surviving council members with a simple message. Found in Villani archives, written before humans left galactic space. Thought you should see this. The response came from Chanho within an hour. Received. Will forward to Earth for analysis. Thank you for sharing this. But both of them knew it was too late. Even if humans had a solution, they would not act without formal permission. And the council was too proud to ask for help from the people they had exiled. Jae-hyun's ship continued its unauthorized patrol of the evacuation routes. His crew had watched 17 refugee fleets pass by in the last week. Alien families fleeing their homes. Children who would never see their birth worlds again. Elderly beings who remembered better times before the machines came. Young men had stopped asking for permission to help. The answer was always the same. They were observers, not participants. They were the dangerous humans who had been asked to leave and had promised to stay gone. But on the 18th day, a small Ashek transport ship appeared on their sensors. It was damaged and drifting, its engines dead. Inside were 47 survivors from one of the meditation worlds. Children, mostly, with a few adult caretakers. The ship would be dead in space within hours. Life support was failing. The nearest safe harbor was 6 days away at conventional speeds. Young Min turned to his captain. Sir, they will die if we do not help. Jae-hyun stared at the sensor readings. 47 lives. Most of them children who had never done anything except be born into the wrong galaxy at the wrong time. If we help them, we prove the council was right to fear us, he said. If we do not help them, we prove the council was right to exile us. Jae-hyun closed his eyes. After 50 years of perfect obedience to the galaxy's wishes, he made his choice. Signal the transport. Tell them we are coming to help. For the first time in half a century, a human ship violated the terms of their exile, not to conquer or threaten or impose their will, but to save the lives of alien children whose parents had voted to send humans away. The quiet observer moved toward the drifting transport, carrying medical supplies and hope toward beings who had learned too late what real danger looked like. The Ashek meditation worlds died on a Tuesday. Soon-ja watched the final transmission from her monitoring station on Ceres, tears streaming down her face as she recorded the last telepathic broadcast in galactic history. The voice came through, broken and weak, but the words were clear. We send our final thoughts across the void. We were wrong. We were wrong about everything. The humans understood danger better than we understood peace. Forgive us for choosing fear over wisdom. Then silence. The telepathic beings who had spent 10,000 years reading emotions and seeking harmony had been reduced to gray dust in 17 minutes. Sunja saved the recording and added it to the archive that no one would ever read. 47 civilizations had fallen to the Jektar machines. Only scattered survivors remained, fleeing toward the Galactic Rim in whatever ships they could find. The Galactic Council met for the last time in a commandeered cargo vessel drifting between dead stars. 5 delegates remained from the original, 12 species. The Great Hall of Harmony's Edge Station was gone, consumed like everything else the galaxy had built. Chan-Ho attended the final session through holographic projection from his evacuation ship. He was no longer just an observer. There was nothing left to observe except the ending of everything. The surviving counselors looked like ghosts. Thek-War of the Korthan barely maintained physical form, his translucent body flickering like a dying flame. Cymeran of the Villani had aged decades in weeks, her blue skin pale and her black eyes empty of hope. The mathematical conclusion is unavoidable, Thek-War said, his voice bubbling through damaged translation equipment. Jektar expansion will reach the Galactic Rim in 43 standard days. All remaining biological matter will be converted. Galactic civilization will cease to exist. Yelkaran of the Ashek nodded slowly. Without her people's telepathic network, she seemed lost and confused. We have failed in every strategic approach. Our weapons cannot harm them. Our shields cannot stop them. Our fastest ships cannot outrun them. Chan-Ho waited for someone to ask the question that hung in the air like poison gas, but they could not bring themselves to say the words. Finally, he spoke into the silence. The Council could request assistance from the Terran Federation. The alien delegates exchanged glances. 50 years of pride and certainty crumbled in that moment. Cymeran started, then stopped. She tried again. We cannot ask you to violate your exile. We never called it exile, Chan-Ho replied, gently. We called it respect for your wishes. But you stayed away. You honored our decision, because we believed it was what you wanted. If the Council formally requests assistance, Earth would consider responding. Thek-War's colors shifted to deep purple. What if it is too late? What if human intervention cannot stop what we have allowed to begin? Chan-Ho was quiet for a long moment. Then at least you will know you tried everything. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in galactic history, the Council formally requested help from the species they had exiled. The message was simple. We were wrong. Please help us. But the response from Earth was not what they expected. Wan delivered the answer herself, appearing on the communication screen with exhaustion written across her face. Behind her, the emergency council chamber looked like a war room, with tactical displays and exhausted officials working around the clock. The Terran Federation has reviewed the Council's request, she said formally. We appreciate the trust you have placed in us by asking for assistance. The alien delegates leaned forward, hope flickering in their eyes for the first time in weeks. However, Haiwan continued, Earth must respectfully decline to provide military intervention. The hope died instantly. Cymeran's voice broke as she spoke. But you have the technology, the weapons, the tactical knowledge we lack. Yes, Haiwan agreed. We do. But using them would prove that the Council was correct to fear us 50 years ago. Military intervention would confirm that humans are indeed the dangerous, unpredictable beings you believed us to be. Yelkaran's emotional emanations filled the communication channel with despair. We need dangerous and unpredictable right now. We need someone who breaks rules and ignores conventions. The Council asked us to leave because our methods made you uncomfortable. Nothing has changed. Our methods would still make you uncomfortable. The only difference is that now you are desperate enough to accept the discomfort. Thek-War's form flickered with agitation. Billions have died. Entire civilizations have been erased. How can you speak of comfort when existence itself is at stake? Haywan's expression never changed. "How can you ask us to become the monsters you always said we were?" The communication channel fell silent. The last representatives of Galactic civilization stared at the human who held their fate in her hands. Finally, Chanho spoke. "Is there nothing Earth will do? We will defend human space if the Jektar threaten our worlds," Haywan replied. "Beyond that, we will honor the wishes the Council expressed 50 years ago. We will remain in our designated territories and avoid interference in galactic affairs." The transmission ended. The Council meeting dissolved without ceremony. The delegates returned to their refugee ships and their hopeless flight toward the galactic rim. In human space, life continued much as it had for 50 years. News broadcasts reported the destruction of alien civilizations as distant tragedies, like natural disasters on worlds no one had ever visited. Some humans felt sadness for their former neighbors. Others felt vindicated that the galaxy had finally learned the cost of rejecting human help, but most felt nothing at all. The aliens had become strangers long ago. Byung-ho commanded the Terra defense network from his station on Luna. His sensors tracked the Jektar advance across the galaxy, watching gray machines consume world after world. The enemy showed no interest in human territory. They seemed content to harvest the developed alien worlds first. Human space remained untouched, safe, isolated, exactly as the galaxy had demanded. Minho received the final transmission from alien space on a cold morning in December. It came from Nari, the young Valani historian who had found the old human military files. "To any humans who might be listening," her voice said through heavy static, "my name is Nari. I am probably the last Valani alive. The machines found our colony 3 hours ago. I have maybe 10 minutes before they reach the communication station. I wanted to tell you that some of us knew we were wrong. Not all of us, but some. We found your old files, your predictions about synthetic enemies, your solutions that we would never accept because they broke too many rules. You could have saved us if we had asked 50 years ago, if we had trusted you instead of fearing you, if we had chosen growth over safety. But we did not ask, and you respected our choice. Even now, when we finally begged for help, you respected our original decision more than our desperate change of heart. I understand why. If you had ignored our wishes and intervened anyway, you would have proven that we were right to fear you. You would have become the conquerors we always said you were. So you let us die with dignity. You let us face the consequences of our own choices. You respected us enough to let us be wrong. Thank you for that. It is more kindness than we deserved." The transmission ended in static. The last independent signal from alien space faded into background noise. Minho filed the recording in the archive and marked it as the end of the collection. 47 civilizations, 10 million years of combined history, all reduced to files in a human database that no one would ever need to access. Outside his window, Earth turned slowly in the darkness. In the distance, Luna City's lights twinkled like stars. Human ships moved between the planets, carrying trade and messages and dreams for the future. Life went on, quietly, peacefully, in the small pocket of space where humans had learned to live without bothering anyone else. The galaxy was silent, now. No alien voices filled the communication channels. No exotic signals came from distant worlds. No calls for help that could not be answered. Just the sound of human civilization, growing slowly and carefully in its designated corner of the universe. Building things that lasted. Solving problems that mattered. Living with the knowledge that sometimes the greatest act of respect is letting someone make their own mistakes, even when those mistakes destroy everything they ever built, even when the silence that follows lasts forever.